or welcome back to our podcast, Culture Shock Therapy. We are your hosts. I'm Shannah. This is Tessa, where we get into a whole lot of therapy for all of the culture shocks we experienced as third culture kids. So stay tuned if you want to dive in with us.
This time we're going to be diving a little bit into Shannah's experience as a third culture kid. She found one theme that really stuck with her the whole time. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of that. So how about you take us on your journey of what that theme was, what it was like for you, and
Sure.
take us away.
I do want to cheers, though, to our second episode and our iced coffee.
We finally got to episode 2 after multiple retakes of 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like you just said, we're getting into what my experiences were specifically as a third culture kid, and kind of like we discussed in the previous episodes, the whole being a clump situation.
Yeah.
We both lived such different experiences, which is something I actually really love to talk about, like, and compare our stories and how we really experienced that.
Because, we really grew up the same in the sense of our parents, the experiences they gave us.
Yeah.
And yet we have completely different perspectives on how everything went.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe just to recap a little bit, I'm just going to go over really quick what a TCK actually is. So TCK stands for Third Culture Kid, and a Third Culture Kid is someone who grows up outside of their home country or their passport country during their developing years. And in our case, we were both born outside of our home country, and aside maybe from 2 years in total, spent all of our lives in different countries. I moved around a lot. So we just really liked the idea to have this podcast to pull the TCK community together, and give people also around us, the ones that are close with us, like our family or our friends that didn't live this life or that stayed in the home countries, kind of insight to what our life was like. And we really kind of hope to get people to relate and connect. And we look forward to having people on the show someday and have people having questions. And so, we're really excited about that. But I guess we'll get into the theme now, or did you want to add something?
Well, I guess that it might also for us kind of be processing how we grew up.
Hence the therapy.
Of course. Yeah. But I think we kind of got thrown into, hey, you're moving back to your home country, good luck. And for us, it was normal for a really long time. We thought everybody lived like this. And now that we've been back in the Netherlands for, 8, 9 years?
Almost 8.
It's insane. I think it's cool to look back, like knowing what we know now, being adults, adulting, life, working.
Trying to.
Our attempts. So, yeah, I'm really interested in what you're going to share with us today. Why don't you go ahead and take us away?
Yeah, so the theme I chose, the one that resonated with me the most as we were kind of preparing this episode, was fitting in, or actually like the lack thereof, and how it's swayed over the years and what it's like looking back now.
Yeah.
And how it kind of helped me today, how I fit in today and how I look back on things and the things I've learned from that. So I guess I can start with that. In general, the first, I believe, 7 years of my life, sorry, I didn't really have any struggles with it. It was always just such a good time. I had so much fun when we lived in Penang and when we lived in Florida. Those were awesome. Really had a good time there. I think the first time I got confronted with struggling to fit in was the first time we moved back to the Netherlands after having lived in Florida. Yeah.
What do you think the difference was? Why it worked in other countries and the Netherlands kind of screwed you over?
Well, looking back, I think I didn't speak good Dutch at all. I kind of had to relearn it.
Yeah.
I remember like in lunch breaks and stuff at school, I always had to be doing spelling tests and vocabulary tests, and they were really trying to teach me Dutch. So I think in that sense, you're already kind of standing out, I guess. And another thing, which is, I guess, a topic you could also relate on, I'm not sure, is we came back to Holland
Yeah.
after Florida. And I was 7 at the time, turning 8 that year. And the school that we went to was the same classmates that I had in preschool when we were here for about half a year
Yeah.
in
Before we moved
2000.
to Florida.
Yeah, before we moved to Penang, even I was like 3.
Oh dang.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a really long time before that. But I had in my mind decided that those kids that I was friends with then still wanted to be friends with me.
Yeah.
That was not the case. Yeah. That's something that for the first time I got confronted with like those kinds of expectations going back to a country you've already lived in.
Yeah.
And B, how people change, things change. In your mind, the country you left or the people you left are
They kind
the
of
same
freeze in your
ones.
head.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
freeze. Exactly. I think you described that really well. And I, as a 7-year-old, on the first day of school, was so excited to see them again, and really wanted to be friends with them, only to realize that they didn't want to be friends with me. They
Oh.
thought it was really cool that I lived in America, and that was like a big deal. But
Yeah.
once that coolness, I guess, wore off, it was just like, well, I mean, you're annoying, so we don't want to be friends. They
Yeah.
would shut you out, or I would spend all of my lunch breaks sitting in a jungle gym because nobody wanted to play.
That's so sad.
I hated going to school.
Yeah. And school's supposed to be fun at that age.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I guess there were also some like gaps in what you learned, because I remember learning multiplication for the first time, and I was just convinced they just wrote the addition sign wrong. So I was like, nope, this is not multiplication. We are adding numbers, and just being really surprised that I kept failing those tests.
But I feel like that's such a funny description of how your brain tries to make things fit into what you know and what you understand.
Damn, yeah.
Like, you know how with algebra tests, you would just like take a test, and if you had multiple choice answers and your answer wasn't there, you just choose the closest one to the answer that you got, because
I've done that a lot. I did that a lot.
There is a reason that you failed math every year and had to do summer school. Much love, but
truth. I just thought, this is not making sense. We need to do something about that to make it make sense. Yes.
So you just made multiplication addition.
Yeah.
It's creative. I like it.
Thank you. That's not what my teacher thought.
But I mean, tell me, how often do you need that now?
Exactly. We have calculators. No big deal. No big deal. And I actually now really good at like multiplication sums in my head, because Dad made me practice every day for 2 hours because it was so bad.
I remember you crying at the dinner table. Every kid who has struggled with math has stories of crying at the dinner table.
Yeah, and I can't even blame him, because he's so good at math. It's insane. Like,
it must be so frustrating having someone that just doesn't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate, because when I was like doing teaching and stuff, like a kid that couldn't add up 4 + 4, it frustrated me to no end. So I can relate. But I feel like we sidetracked.
Yeah.
Again,
as we usually do.
So I'm just gonna like pull it back for a sec, because before we know it, we're gonna go on a whole tirade of different kinds of topics.
Yeah. Definitely not going to be about what we're intending this podcast to be about. But you were saying how you noticed for the first time that you were not fitting in because you had to stay behind at lunch and friends didn't want to be friends anymore.
Yeah. So that was for me the first time that I would say, smacked me in the face. It really did catch me off guard.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was 7, so I couldn't understand why that was going on. I mean, of course, it wasn't right. You're not supposed to be shutting people out and stuff like that. There's that part of it. But also, looking back with the, being an adult now and having a bit of a knowledge about how kids work and all of that, like, I can understand that for them, it would have been really weird.
To have you back.
Yeah, well, to have you back, and I didn't really speak the language very well, and things I watched on TV were different from the things that they watched on TV.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Kadri was. Now I love them. I still do to this day. But those are types of like pop culture things that you don't you don't get on with.
Yeah.
So you don't really have things to really relate on. And maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was not understanding. It could have been a whole bunch of things. I
Yeah.
don't know. But I am happy that I'm able to look back on that now and be like, yeah, it was mean, but they probably didn't know what to do either.
Yeah, it is a bit sad though, because, you know, best case scenario, you want to teach kids that other kids can be different, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
still try to include them and not shut them out. And
Yeah. So that was really definitively the first time for me that I got confronted with that. And it was the weirdest because it was in our home country.
yeah, you expect things to go easy there or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of a recurring theme.
Oh
In
no.
in home country, it's a lot harder because you're out of the community that grows up the way that you grow up. So there's a way that
We're gonna have to edit this out because that makes a lot of noise. Continue.
so that takes away that kind of understanding, you know?
Yeah.
And also, just being the new kid is a recipe for bullying, and it's not good, but it's how it works.
Yeah.
So that was there. After that, we moved to Dubai. I think I didn't struggle with that. Also, just had a good time. We were able to like make some, I guess, longer friends.
Yeah, I mean, we stayed there for more than a year for like the first time in our
Yeah,
lives.
yeah. So that was good. I was really happy about that. After Dubai, though, we moved to Singapore. I was 10, about to turn 11 at the time. And we came in mid-school year. That was rough.
Always bad
Yeah.
for social things.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still a people pleaser, like to some extent for sure. But through like the inner work and stuff, I've been able to uh get that going in the right direction. Let me just put
Yeah.
it like that.
You're less of a people pleaser now.
Less. Yeah.
You've got some more fire.
But then
That was not the case.
I was so desperate to fit in, and I think that showed in everything.
Yeah.
Which is not a bragging point, by the way. It's not a flex. You should never be desperate to fit in. It does not do you any favors. It bites you in the ass.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have to work that hard to fit in, it's probably not the group of people you should be hanging out with.
No, exactly. Exactly. So I found these two girls in my class, and they had the vibe that they were kind of like the popular-ish girls. They were like the meanish type popular.
I feel like even though they might not have been the popular ones, they really acted like they were.
They thought they were.
Exactly
For sure.
that. Like,
yeah.
they weren't necessarily popular, but they just took up that space.
Yeah, exactly. They took up the space. Something people pleasers also learn to do, take up some space. So I was like, I want to be friends with them. There were a lot of other people in that class that were very, very nice and just really good people. I should have made wiser decisions, but yeah,
because I mean, they ended up being your friends too, the nicer people, but something about
I would ditch them, to be honest, if the other girls wanted to hang out with me again, which is also, again, not a flex. Deeply flawed actions on my part.
I mean, you were a kid, but
I was a kid, but I mean,
still doesn't make it right.
Exactly. We need to keep it real here.
This is going to be raw. This part, like all of our episodes, hopefully.
Yeah. Exactly. So I had my sights fixed on them. We are doing
just the whole time I'm a pinky up.
Yeah. And so that actually brought a lot of, I would say, headaches.
Yeah.
Because it was one day we were friends and the next day we weren't, and it would keep on going like that. We were talking about, when we were preparing this episode, you reminded me of the toilet paper story.
Yes, and I feel like bi-weekly you had to go to the teacher with these two girls because y'all were in trouble again for things like the toilet paper story. Would you like to enlighten everybody on what happened?
It was something that my memory had blocked out, but we were talking about it. I was like, holy shit.
Can't believe that happened.
Basically, like one instance where these girls were
targeting me,
messing with me, and I accepted it because I really wanted to fit in, um, is there was this boy in our class, and there was nothing wrong with him. He was just a guy in our class. Mind you, we were 10, okay? Just for context. And they had, so we just took a little break because we had some interruption.
My kid was crying.
Yeah.
For like 45 minutes. But it's okay.
Which is a priority. When the baby cries,
we stop recording. Yeah. But no, so I think what we were talking about is the time that you were not pranked, but kind of targeted by these two bullies in your class.
Yeah.
And you were going to tell a toilet paper story.
The toilet paper roll. Yeah. So I remember being called out by the teacher to have a little chat. And my heart just went.
Did you have any idea what it was going to be about?
No, I had no clue. I was like, I'm in trouble for sure, but I didn't know for what.
Oh, I remember the stress and anxiety you could feel when,
Yeah. So the teacher calls me outside, and was like, do you recognize this note? And pulls out this piece of paper. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I was just like, what? So then I read the note. And in the note, they had said, "Dear," and then his name, "may your life be as long as a toilet paper roll." Signed by me.
I mean, how do you even come up with it, to be honest?
I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that I laughed and then I panicked.
But I mean, she had to see that your reaction was genuine. Like, what the hell is this?
I genuinely don't recall. I don't know what she was thinking. I would like to hope that she knew me better than that.
Yeah.
And also she knew about the whole history with what was going on with these girls and stuff. But I was like, I'm fucked.
But I can also imagine that she would expect you to do this. No, that you were like pressured into it by these girls.
Oh, like that. I was like, you were just a horrible kid.
No, you were a sweet kid, but you got into bad situations because of peer pressure sometimes.
Yeah. So that would have been reasonable. I remember getting a tally mark. So if you had like 3 tally marks, you had to write vocab words or something like that. And I was so upset because I was like, I really don't know who did this, what happened. Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of like a funny story in a sad situation. But those kinds of things were happening, and I guess who couldn't relate to things like that, right? I mean,
I feel like almost every kid has been bullied at some point.
Yeah.
All right. You had just told your toilet paper story. You were saying 8th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, rewind just a little bit.
Yeah. So when I hit 8th grade, in the meantime, it was just. That is okay.
All right, you had just hit 8th grade.
Yeah. So in between that time, it was kind of just fluctuating, fitting in, not fitting in, still really wanting to hang out with those girls. There were actually it was just not the healthiest situation.
Really?
Shocker. But 8th grade hit, and then all hell just kind of broke loose. I don't even all of these years later, I think now we're 15 years later. That's insane, by the way. Yeah. I can't exactly recall what started it. But it got really bad, and not even about just not fitting in. It went to straight, just like hardcore bullying.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop. And I remember just feeling so alone, and in being alone, I would isolate myself kind of, and then being desperate for their approval, right? Or desperate to fit in. So I would try to do whatever I had to do to fit in.
Yeah.
Which also was not the best thing to do. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know, is there something wrong with me? What happened? Yesterday we were friends, and now you and everybody hate me for some reason. And I remember just being really confused. And kind of that, in therapy, you always talk about your inner child, right?
Yeah.
Looking back, I feel like that inner child of me in second grade here in Holland just suddenly got so
Triggered.
vulnerable and exposed and triggered. Yeah. Because that same confusion just came flooding back, and I felt like I was powerless to do anything about it.
Well, yeah, and it must have been really unsafe because, like, emotionally unsafe. You never know what you're walking into.
Yeah, it was extremely unpredictable. Because I remember it would be like weeks on end, the bullying would be really bad, and then I would go to school with like knots in my stomach and just not wanting to be there, and hoping the day would just go by. And then they would just be really nice, and there'd be nothing going on, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe it's over, and then the next day, bomb, just getting right back into it.
Yeah.
And it every single time without fail, it just completely yanks the rug out from under me.
Yeah.
Um, and that was looking back at it now, it still kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, of course.
Um, for how I felt back then.
Yeah.
I feel like me now would deal with it differently.
Well, of course, you have so much more life experience and tools that therapy has given you.
And the prefrontal cortex, which has developed by this time, I would hope.
And self-worth.
Yeah. So I feel like I wish I could tell my younger self, my 13-year-old self, that I should stop really trying to fit in, and that it's not worth losing myself, losing all of the mental health I had at that point still over
some dumb girls who are just trying to
yeah,
be cool.
yeah. So that's something I actually I kind of regret. But you can't really blame yourself because you're 13 and you just want to fit in. That's all you really want at that age.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess in that time, just a lot of core wounds reopened and then got bigger or deeper, because of the extent that the bullying went. I remember there were even eventually like physical threats.
Damn.
Yeah, we were on the fourth floor, right, in middle school.
Yeah.
This one girl threatened. I mean, looking back, it was absolutely ridiculous because you never could. But she threatened to throw me off the balcony.
But honestly, like, a 13-year-old kid can't relativate that. What do you call
I
it?
think differentiate.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
and you're still being threatened, whether it's a real threat or not. It's insane that a kid is messed up enough, I'm sorry, but messed up enough to threaten you with that.
Yeah, she had a lot of her own pain, which is not a
No, of course, but I mean,
justification.
I think that anybody who bullies, there's a reason they do it.
Yeah.
And I really definitely hope she got the help she needed because she really needed it.
Yeah, I think so, actually.
But yeah, that's worrisome that you were dealing with those heavy thoughts and experiences at that age.
Yeah.
And not really talking to anybody about it. Because
I felt like I couldn't.
Yeah, because I remember some teachers tried to, ring the bell, hey, something's going on, and mom and dad tried to talk to you, but I think you're just in too deep in your isolation and in your head.
Yeah, in your head. I think that's something that's with me, I guess, my whole life is I tend to get in my head.
Yeah.
But then I was doing it without realizing it and feeling like I couldn't do anything about it. So I would isolate myself even more. I would get really in my head. I created like my own little world inside my head,
Yeah.
because that was safe. And also, really, I mean, now I know better, of course, like, let that be clear. But back then, feeling like I couldn't talk to anyone because I'm like,
Yeah.
that'll only make it worse. And looking back, I wish I had done something differently. But at the same time, things go how they go.
Yeah.
And you end up on this life path that you're on now, which if maybe things went differently, you'd be on a totally different life path. I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine how different my life could be.
If you haven't
Not in
been
a positive or negative, but just like, like the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
If you turn left instead of right, it has this whole ripple effect.
You can never imagine what would have been
Yeah.
different then. And luckily you came out on the right end.
Mm.
I mean, it was touch and go there for a little while, but it was never drastic to the point where you might not have been here anymore. You know, you're here now because luckily nothing.
It never got that far.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but there were some actions that needed to be taken, and with a lot of kicking and screaming. It was like leaving a toxic relationship, honestly, because mom and dad pulled me out of school after a really big explosion.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to leave. I was justifying everything for everyone, and I was really upset with them that they pulled me out of school.
Yeah.
And I made it a point to make their life a living hell, which is, again, not a thing I'm proud of.
But a thing you learn from.
You learn. You live and you learn, obviously. But I mean, hopefully.
I mean, that's the goal in
It's
life,
not a
but you
given,
never know.
unfortunately. Yeah. But that was just the constant struggle of trying to fit in. And then, I mean, I guess in the next episode, we're going to get into what it's like going back to your home country, right? But
As an adult, kind of, because
yeah, with the struggles of fitting in. So that'll be continued for later. But when I went to my home school, which followed the being pulled out of school situation, I was the only Caucasian kid in a Asian homeschool system, and that also came with some fitting in problems.
yeah,
Not to the extent of what it was like in middle school, but it was I was weird compared
yeah.
to the rest.
And you flipped a little bit in your position, I guess,
What do
because
you
I remember
mean?
you had two other bully girls again there in that school,
Correct. Yeah.
and I feel like the bullying that happened in your original school hardened you so much that you became a little bit of a bully
I
in
know,
that
and
school.
that honestly is one of my biggest regrets ever.
I can imagine.
Because the thing that tore me down so bad, I was now projecting my pain onto a kid that was a few years younger than I was, and
Yeah,
that had nothing to do with um, the struggles I was facing.
yeah,
And had a lot of conversations about this girl, and I have deeply expressed my regret for you know my part in the bullying,
yeah. Of
because
course.
I wasn't even like the ringleader, but I was a part of it. Also because I wanted to fit in.
Yeah,
And I remember her brother disrupted lunch break one time to confront all of us, and I was like, in that moment, I was like, holy shit, what am I doing?
yeah,
Why am I now projecting my pain onto this kid?
yeah.
Um, so that was a wake up call.
I think to get
Um,
real with yourself as well, because then you actually finally started putting in the work to start healing, I guess.
I think the whole hurt people thing suddenly made sense in my mind, because I
Yeah,
was like, there's literally no other reason for me doing this other than to patch up this wound of being hurt by bullying
yeah,
and to project that onto someone else. And even though this girl and we developed a really, really great friendship, and I still think about her a lot, um, and she's forgiven me for my part in it. Um, it kind of haunts me to this day that I did that.
yeah,
Um, and I really did try to learn my lessons from that, and to take a different route, in the
yeah,
future. So things that I've kind of learned, on the one hand, is to kind of just turn it into something positive, because it's a little bit of a depressing topic. But
yeah,
something that I've really learned from all of this is, I really make it I feel like it's my duty in a group setting to make sure that everybody feels safe.
and seen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that I really strongly believe in having like harmony in a group, and that people are able to talk about things, and that there's not a gossiping culture.
yeah,
um, uh, so I really try to promote that, whether I'm in school or whether I'm at my work. I hope that's a way also people see me these days. But I never ever want to be someone again who, um, I put through something that I've been through like
Yeah.
that, because I know better.
You don't want to pass on the pain that way
No,
anymore.
nah, that stops. Um, so I feel like the pain may not have been necessary per se. I mean, I wish we could have skipped that whole part, but I do hope that I've been able to turn it into something productive,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Do something good with it.
yeah, yeah. So I guess that kind of sums up my whole struggling to fit in and uh yeah.
And I think what I like about you sharing this is applicable to third culture kids and non-third culture
Yeah.
kids. I think like 95% of people have struggled with fitting in one way or another, and sadly you got the blunt of it, like a pretty really bad experience. But I think a lot of people will be able to relate to it when they hear this. And of course,
I
that's
hope
also our
so.
goal.
Yeah.
Having this podcast, diving into our lives, trying to share experiences that people are like, oh, hey, I somehow have also experienced this, and maybe they'll take away something or just be able to feel seen and heard.
Well, yeah, I hope that if anything, if someone listens to this, that they can, yeah, relate. I mean, it's not good if you can relate because, oh yeah, I've been bullied too, because that's not a good
Yeah.
thing. But like,
It's good that people know they're not alone in what they
because
experienced.
I felt very alone.
Yeah.
And I know I wasn't alone, but I felt very alone. And knowing and feeling
Very different
are
things.
very different things sometimes. So I hope if someone going through this is feeling alone, that they feel a little less alone.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, don't be afraid to shoot us a message if that is you.
Yeah.
Because as you've heard, Shannah's experienced enough of feeling alone. Later we'll
I'm a
get
pro
into
now.
later we'll get into other experiences that she or I have had. So if you're someone feeling alone or going through any of this heavy stuff, feel free to shoot us a message. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Um, because we want to be there for people, I
Yeah.
think.
And that's like we said in the beginning of the episode, kind of our goal with culture shock therapy is to bring people together,
Yeah.
give people the space to talk and grow and learn from each other and connect and relate. So I mean, this is scary as well, being this vulnerable to, I don't know how many people are going to be watching this.
Or who's going to be watching it,
Yeah,
or is it going to come back to bite you in the ass
exactly.
later?
So I really hope that it's something good for someone.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to also stand still at the points where we learned from those experiences.
Yeah.
Because I came out on the other side, but if you're still in the thick of it, you don't know what you're going to be learning from it.
Or how it's going to end.
Yeah. So I'm on the other side, and I've been able to learn from it, and I hope put it to good use in how I manage groups and things like that. So
And just I think how you live, what you want to what do you call it?
accomplish.
Yeah, accomplish, and oh gosh, my English is blanking. What you want to wat je uit wil stralen.
The vibe I want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That people feel comfortable to come to you because you're open and you're warm and they're safe with you.
I
Like
hope
a little
people
mama
feel
hen.
that way.
But I think your experiences did that too. They enhanced your empathy. They taught you how to use your empathy, because I think that you always felt a lot. You just had no idea how to channel it. If I can like fill all of this in for you,
I didn't know what to do with anything.
like this is just kind of an outside
Yeah.
issue, but there was just no outlet for everything that you were feeling. And I mean, music probably helps, listening to Black Veil Brides, going into that whole emo thing.
Oh, I love that. That's still like a thing.
But it didn't help you to actually let go of what you were feeling. It just, what do you call it?
Enhanced it, I
Enhanced
guess.
it, yeah, which on the one hand is nice. But I remember my mentor in Singapore, she one time told me that, what do you call it? She had a playlist for when she was feeling sad. And it was something along the lines of the self-hurting playlist. Like, you're sabotaging yourself listening to this because, yes, it's nice to feel heard and seen in your music, but you're also putting yourself through it again. And that just changed my whole perspective. And I think you can probably relate to that the music you were listening to was also hurting you.
I actually did make a thing about that because I really love still the whole emo, punk, rock music scene. Definitely. And there's a time
And a place.
and a place to listen to it. But I try to be mindful that when I'm done in my sulking music, or music that might have a really nice beat but not the most positive message, I put on Happy by Pharrell Williams afterwards. Because it kind of gets you like back in a good energy. So you've had a place to sulk, and then you have a place to...
You need to get yourself back out of that pit again. Yeah, I think it's not bad to sometimes, get down in that. I remember I had this one song, anytime I felt like crap, I'd listen to that. It was Time Bomb from All Time Low. And I remember having my little iPod and my, plug-in earphones. Back before you had wireless earphones. And I would just it was a banger, get that energy flowing, and I would cry, and then afterwards be like, yeah.
You need balance. And
exactly.
I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't believe that you should always be positive no matter what, because you know what?
Sometimes you just gotta feel shit.
And we're humans.
Yeah.
So it's not realistic to just always be happy or positive. Sometimes you just feel like shit.
Exactly.
And you need to process that, but you need to get back up after that.
Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Ooh.
Yay.
No, you can use the tactic of they say that just smiling will make you feel better. So, through the pain, through the tears, just force that smile. Not like that. That's just kind of creepy. I'll call the police if I see that. But no. So again, this has been a roller coaster of a ride, doing this podcast. And I think there's lots to take away for people here. And not the next episode, but one of the following ones, we're going to dive a little bit more into how Shannah experienced fitting in, moving back to the Netherlands when you were 20 years old to study, because being a third culture kid also had a lot of effect on that. And obviously there's a whole line that you can pull through everything. That's really not an English way of saying it.
I love how you're drawing it on the table. Like people can just, that are listening, be like, oh yeah, she's now drawing a line on the table.
No, the common denominator in everything. And we'll get into that because I think it'll give a really nice, interesting perspective. The next episode, we're going to be talking about in my experiences. I still need to kind of figure out what that common denominator is for me.
Like what your theme is.
Yeah. Because I do know that I struggled with trust was a really big thing for me. But I want to kind of get into that later.
And trust, I mean, we're not going to get into it too much, but I'm just curious, trust, attachment?
Trusting people and attachment with just everything that we experience. And I think it'll be funny to hear how differently the things that you struggled with, how they're different and yet similar from the things that I struggled with.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that next time. For now, we're really excited that you listened to this episode.
Thank you for your time.
For your support. If you like it, share it. Or if you think somebody will be able to relate to this or will enjoy this, please share it with them. Comment on it, like it, do the whole ramabam.
Ramabam. Okay.
It's Dutch. So this is going to happen more often where we just kind of Englishify Dutch things and Dutchify English things.
Yeah.
But you'll get used to it.
Well, we should keep that one in. Just ramabam, all the buttons to subscribe. That's just the all-encompassing.
The ram-bam.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for listening. We enjoyed having you here, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.